Beep beep. Hello, good people. Co-warrior teacher. Starting in March. Looking forward to it. Other than that, subscribe, do the usual. Great piece from Legal Feminists. Yeah, Legal Feminist who've done a post, a sort of guest blog by Cycle Free and Audrey Ludwig. Now, Audrey Ludwig is a very well known in the circles of EDI on Twitter. Again, as I said the other day about Simon, Audrey and I don't always see eye to eye. Audrey is a stickler for detail in the law, whereas I'm like, no, let's just wrap it up in toilet paper and flush it down the nearest big toilet. Right? That's what I'm like. Get rid of it. Whereas Audrey has a much more measured and sensible tone than I in regards to these things. However, what's really interesting here is that legal feminists are taking on something which I've always said has been something we should consider, which is the chances of what we do turning out the way we expect it to is practically nil. That's what's at the heart of this particular blog that legal feminists have got here from Cycle Free and Audrey, is the chances of us, what we're trying to do, turn out to be what happens is practically nil. Which is why I always say, when we're tackling individuals and organisations in this fight, it's not what they thought they were going to do that I condemn them for, it's what they've done. Which is straight out of V for Vendetta or Hamlet. I can't decide which, right? Okay, get it? So the worst can and does happen. And they begin the piece with a quote by Lindbergh, Johnston, the American presidentials, who said, "You do not examine legislation in the light of the wrongs, in the light of benefits it will convey, if properly administered. But you must examine it in the light of the wrongs it would do and the harms it would cause if improperly administered." Fascinating that, isn't it? Improperly administered. Wise advice, it says here. It should be heeded by those proposing new laws or policies and airily dismissing any concerns about the misuse of such laws on the basis that no one will ever do the thing that the law permits or abuse the loophole created or use the law to achieve an end its proponents never intended. Let's take some recent examples, much in the news lately, and see why that might be so. For example, the removal of Section 69 of the Police and Criminal Evidence Act 1984, which meant that some computer evidence was deemed admissible and true unless the person challenging it could prove otherwise. So they find something on a computer and go, this is admissible and it's true. You, as the person that's being accused of something, have to prove it's not. They changed it. That change enabled the prosecutions at the heart of the Post Office Horizon scandals, as well as, I would say, of turning, the idea, the presumption of innocence until proven guilty on its head. We've seen this before in other areas. They've also pointed out here that the proposed Scottish Government ban on conversion therapy, currently out for consultation, this will create new criminal offences which could criminalise parents concerned about gender questioning children and seeking the appropriate way to manage the situation. Will such laws be abused, or is this an unnecessary worry? What does experience teach us? Number one, extremists, activists, those with malign intent, will always exploit the law, loopholes, well-meaning policies for their own ends, if given the opportunity to do so. Look at what's happened with the Equality Act, the exploitation of the Equality Act by LARPing knicker fumblers and stocking regarders. Look at what's happened. The fact that those ends were not intended by enacting the legislation or introducing the policy is absolutely irrelevant. It's what it's caused. It's what it's caused. Those seeking to simplify the law on admissibility of computer evidence, for instance, never intended that this should be used to enable prosecutions on the basis of flawed computer evidence, and yet it was. Number two, the worst case will happen at some point. See the Horizon cases as an example. This is back to the post office. The Scottish conversion therapy ban proposal could enable, in certain circumstances, a parent to be prosecuted for wanting to stop their daughter wearing breast binders because of the harm caused and because they are worried that she has not been correctly diagnosed. You see there the misapplication of what was a well-intended law. The process of investigation is itself a punishment. How many times have we heard this, and how many times have I said it? The process is the punishment. The process of investigation is a punishment, one that can often take an inordinate length of time. be costly and upsetting for the person under investigation and their family. This is so even if no prosecution or other action occurs. The same could occur in disciplinary proceedings. See the length of time between the events leading to Rachel Mead's suspension by her employer and the judgment this month that her employer and professional regulator had behaved unlawfully in how they had treated her. Number 4, injustice takes a long time to be reversed. Oh, you ain't kidding. In the Rachel Mead case, the original complaint was made in 2020. Judgment was finally reached in 2024. It's absolutely insane. In other cases, people can wait very much longer. Seema Misra, one of the sub-postmasters prosecuted on Horizon evidence, was convicted in 2010 and her conviction only overturned in 2021. Number 5, even when a court rules, those disliking it will deny what it says and others will seek to ignore or misrepresent the judgment. See, for example, the reaction by some to the Forstater judgment. It was grudgingly accepted that she could have the views. She did, but she, or anyone else sharing the same views, was not allowed to express them. This was contrary to what the judgment said. I mean, it was the exact opposite of what the judgment said, really. And that's the problem, isn't it? That's the problem. Bad actors are going to bad act wherever you go. They continue. Before passing new laws or introducing policies, before assuming that the worst cannot happen, legislatures should heed the advice we set out here last April. There's a link to that. And in particular this. What are the consequences, especially unintended ones? What is the worst that could happen? So that those who say no one could be lawful, so those who say no one would do lawful things with these laws, awful things with these laws, the response is, how can you be certain? If they wouldn't do them, the powers are not needed. If they exist, they will be used. If they can be used, they will be abused. Naivety is unpardonable in legislatures and policymakers. Again, you see, Cycle Free and Audrey. It's measured. They've thought about it. They're not bull at the gate me, are they? Let's be honest, they're not saying, like I am, let's scrap the bloody lot because, you know. One of the warrior teachers last night said to me, do you know, mate, he said, you've got the tendency to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Right, and I do. It's in my nature to go, no, just scrap it, we'll start again. Because I think that's the best way to often do things. So I was told that, and I do have a tendency to do baby out with the bathwater, you know? Especially when I'm teaching. Because you've got to do both ends of the bookcase, so you can discuss the books on the rest of it. But yeah, I do, to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But I would say that when it comes to critical social justice, trans rights, critical race theory, all the rubbish and the guff that's being thrust down children's throats in schools, that's being made, employees being made to sit through execrable training by people that don't even know what they're doing, is a particularly ugly baby. So in this instance, I'm more than happy to throw the squawking, stinking, shouting, screaming, fetid baby that is critical social justice out with the bathwater, right? Off you pop. Where? It will be screaming and pummeling its fists on the floor. Grand. So there you go from Legal Feminist. Go and have a read. Some interesting links about the other stuff that's been going on. Because I covered Rachel Mead, the social worker. They do the same thing. So yeah, very, very well worth a read and a bit of exploration from the links on the page. So I'll put everything as normal in the Dubris. Come be a warrior teacher. I'll see you later.